The Swiss Family Robinson, English Literature, Grade 5. Hello, my dear children. Are you ready to learn a new English lesson? Class, can you guess what are we learning today? Today we are going to learn Chapter 1, Ship on the Rocks. Children, do you know the name of the author who wrote the Swiss Family Robinson? Yes, the name of the author is Johann Wyss. The Swiss Family Robinson is an interesting and exciting story about the way people can build their lives in a strange and difficult place. The Swiss Family Robinson was different. The idea was to show a family working together in perfect family love through every kind of difficulty. Mr. David Robinson, he is the narrator. He teaches his sons the value of patience, hard work, and helping each other. Now let's see the main characters of this story. Mr. David Robinson, he is the father and the narrator of the story. Mrs. Robinson, she is the mother. Mr. David Robinson and Mrs. Robinson, they have 4 boys. Fritz, the eldest son, Ernest, the second son, Jack, the third son, and Francis, the youngest son. Now let's move on to the lesson. The storm had lasted for 6 days. The captain did not know where he was. All those in the ship believed that their lives would be lost. So Mrs. Robinson and the 4 young sons gathered close to Mr. David Robinson. And he said, "My dear children, God can save us." Then above the noise of the storm, he heard a cry, "Land, land!" And the ship went and struck the rocks. The captain cried, "There's no hope now. Let down the boats." "No hope?" cried the children. So Mr. David Robinson, he said to the boys, "Be brave, my boys. The land isn't far off. This is one of the many small islands in this part of the world. I've seen them on the map. God will show us a way of saving ourselves. I'll go up and see what can be done." So Mr. David Robinson went up and saw that all the boats were in the sea, and all the men had left the ship. They had gone away in the boats and forgotten the Robinson family. Then Mr. David Robinson looked towards the land. The front part of the ship was held up between 2 rocks so that it was above the water. So he went back to his family and said, "It's all right. Part of the ship is above the water. Tomorrow the waves will have gone down and we'll be able to reach the land." Night came and Mrs. Robinson prepared a meal and the boys went to bed. But Mrs. Robinson and Mr. David Robinson kept watch. Day came. There was less wind and the waves were going down. The sky was clear and the land was not far off. So Mr. David Robinson said, "Now let's go round the ship and see what we can find to help us to reach the land. Then we'll meet here, bringing anything useful that we have found." Mr. David Robinson went to the storeroom to see what food and water they had. Fritz, the eldest boy, brought back guns, gunpowder, and shot, and the second son, Ernest, found a box of tools, a hammer, a lot of nails, saws, a big knife, some small knives, and some other things. And the box was very heavy, but Fritz helped him to carry it. The third son, Jack, opened the door of the captain's room and two big dogs jumped out at him. They were quite friendly and he led them along. Then Mrs. Robinson came and told Mr. David Robinson what she and Francis, the youngest son, had found. They have found a cow, a donkey, two goats, a pig, two sheep, some hens, and some ducks. So Mr. David Robinson said, all those things will be useful, but not the dogs. They will eat too much. So when he said like that, Jack felt very sad and he didn't want to leave the dogs. So he said, but father, they'll help us in catching animals for food when we reach the land. Mr. Robinson said, yes, but we haven't yet reached the land. We must think of a way of doing it. We must make a boat. Let's get some barrels and some pieces of wood. So they set to work and made a boat. It was very heavy. They made a mast and a sail and they found some oars. So Mr. Robinson said, we'll put up the mast when the boat's in the water. Then Fritz asked, but how will we get it into the water? We must put rollers under it. Then it will roll along and go into the sea. At last everything was ready. Mr. David Robinson fixed a long rope to their boat and tied the other end to the ship so that their boat would not be carried away. Then they had a meal and they all slept peacefully. Let's practice. Rule number 1. Follow the directions quickly. It's time to do the exercises in your literature writing book. Textbook, page number 70. Children, can you answer these 3 questions? Number 1. Who is the narrator, the person who is telling the story? Number 2. What did the captain, officers and seamen do? What useful things did the family find? So my dear children, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. I will be doing this lesson in the Zoom sessions too. Please complete all the student notes and keep your dear teacher happy. Goodbye.